Good morning, y'all. So, I am talking about a book that I actually don't have a copy of in my hand right now because me and my mom are reading this series and she has the book. So I have the second book. So we're talking about Nancy Drew. The first book is The Secret of the Old Clock. And I just wanted to chat about it. So the series has a lot of books, by the way. Let's see if I can flip to the back of the book. Well, okay. Yeah. It says 50 additional titles in hardcover on the back. So, yeah, it's got, like 64 books in the series. So, there's a lot. And basically, this is such a fun book. So, it's the first one in the series. And the basic premise is there's this girl, Nancy Drew. And she is kind of a sleuth. Her father is a lawyer, and she finds out that this guy who died, the will says that he gave it all to this one part of his family, like a husband, wife, and their 2 daughters situation. And everyone was like, oh, well, he always said that he would include me in the will, but, and then there is this rumor that there's a second will, and Nancy takes it upon herself to figure out where the second will, the later legit will, could be, that it brings justice with the money. And the whole story is her trying to find this second will and finding out little details here and there. Overall, fantastic read. I definitely recommend it. A couple things of note is it is old. It was published, well, at least the copyright date, so I'm assuming published, in like 1930, which also the lighting is gonna get awful because the sun is coming up, so enjoy the awkward lighting. But anyways, so, yeah, it was written in the 30s, like published in 1930, not just 30s, just completely. Oh, that works. I just have to hide the camera from the light. Science. But yeah, so she has a lot of dated information in here, but it's fun. So that is kind of it for the non-spoiler section. And I'm not gonna talk well, I guess I kind of am. There's a few parts in here that I wanted to specifically mention. So if you don't want this spoiled, I definitely recommend you go buy the book. It's not that expensive because, again, it was like it's like 90 years old now, so go do your thing. But yeah, so if you don't care, if you've already read it, welcome, let's chat. So the few things that stood out were like, it's so beautifully cheesy. I love it. So the first thing that I still can't get over is the part where she's in the rainstorm and she's driving in her convertible that's brand new and she can't get the roof to go back up, which I'm like, first of all, I don't think most of us, if we bought a brand new car, would just be fine with not being able to get that to function. Like, that would be a top priority to go back to the dealership and be like, hey, warranty thing. Because if you buy a new car, usually it's like, hey, if a part breaks within like the first 3 months or so many miles, they'll deal with it. And she's just like, oh no, it's conveniently not gonna work in this rainstorm. And so she's like drenched, driving. And the first part of my brain's like, why don't you just find like a bridge or something? But then I was thinking maybe in the 1930s, bridges weren't as common as they are now. I mean, on my drive, I have at least 3 bridges that I drive under. So, but yeah, so then she ends up pulling into the random person's garage barn thing, and I'm like, what? On every level. I mean, if you're the homeowner and some random ass car in a rainstorm comes like zooming into your open garage or barn or whatever, like, what? No, the cops should be called. You're probably gonna die. They're probably gonna steal or murder you. Help. And then they're like, oh, you almost hit me. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's just raining and I can't get my convertible car to go up. And I'm like, in the 1930s, that probably sounded like a very rich, prissy thing, right? Like, convertibles aren't, like, very common, regardless. Like, at least where I live, you don't see a hell of a lot of them. But you also, like, I don't know, I feel like in the 1930s, those were, like, really rare and, like, a big deal. And so I'm just like, okay, random person, just okay. But just the fact that they're like, oh, it's fine. And then she's drenched, and they're like, oh, well, let's dry and iron your clothes in our house, which I'm just like, don't go into stranger's house. Stranger danger 101. This is how you die. And Nancy's just like, oh, okay, it's fine. Because logic. So there's that, which is just weird. And I just constantly, I keep thinking of that, like, this is how you die. Like, you don't do that. And then, like, some of the other parts of it, I was just like, what? So, a lot of her issues could have been solved with modern technology. Because, like, when she goes out on the lake and the motor dies, if you had a phone, granted, maybe there wouldn't be cell service, but 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have signal. And then you could call for help, because that would be smart. And also, if it's a clunkety motor, maybe don't use it. Just a thought. And just, like, randomly breaking into people's houses, like, just exploring houses, like she does it with the one family to look at the clock or whatever. Like, most families, and let alone going to that, like, beach house thing, like, you can't do that. Most houses will have, especially rich houses, have security systems in place. So dated. And, like, getting locked into a closet, like, and a phone would fix this. Also, security cameras would be a thing. So, yeah, that was just kind of weird. But I was like, so many things could be fixed now. But the fact that she's just, like, walking into so many people's houses and just talking to so many strangers, and, like, it's no big deal. Just tell of the times, because apparently we don't trust people anymore now. So I would not do that, but I'm also introverted, so maybe that's why, I don't know. But, yeah, so, the only other thing that really stood out in this book for me was the old lady who, like, fell and, like, hurt her hip or whatever. I can't remember her name, and I can't look it up because I have the second book, not the first book. But Nancy's like, she said something like, because the lady was kind of laid up, obviously. She's old and hurt herself. And, she was like, oh, well, I'll go get the invalid something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, maybe like 100 years almost ago, 90 years ago, people would have said that if you're, you know, injured and healing, you're an invalid. But I'm like, well, so just, and it was towards the end of the book, and it was just like this weird trip of just like, what? So, yeah, I was, yeah, it stood out, and I was just like, wow, times have changed. 90 years makes a difference. So, anyways, those are kind of the main things that stood out in this first book of the series. I'm planning on talking about all 64. I have book 2, The Hidden Staircase, and I thought it was kind of cute that, like, the very last paragraph or so of the book, like, the last page, will always lead into the next book. So, like, this one, page 182, I haven't even read this yet, but one soon came her way. Well, this is the next paragraph, so we'll just read this paragraph. It's not even a full paragraph because it started on the other page, but okay, I guess I could, because it's not even a full word. The young sleuth smiled. Although she was glad it was all over, she couldn't help but look forward to another mystery to solve. One soon came her way when, quite accidentally, she found herself involved in the bungalow mystery. So, yeah, I just find it cute that they always talk about, like, the next book. And I think it's, like, the first 3 books or so all came out in 1930, so I'm just like, goals? So, Also, the lighting, again. The sun went away for a second, and now it's back on my camera, so whatever, it's fine. But yeah, so it's like she had to have published this like 3 a year or something like that, if not, maybe more, maybe 4, something. I can't remember if the 4th book was published in that year, if it was after, but still, that's really cool to have that many books coming out in 1930. Like, that was a long time ago. I think it was between the World Wars, if I remember right. Maybe not. Probably not. I don't remember. But, like, it was a while ago. No, that was a minute. And, because I feel like, wasn't it World War II started in, like, 39? I think. And the other one was in, like, 1918 or something like that. So it's kind of, like, between them. I don't remember. It's been a while since I thought about my war history. But, nonetheless, it was a while ago. And yeah, so I am loving this series. It's super cheesy and I love it. So if you want to read along, please do. We're gonna read all 64 of these. I currently have a variety of random ones throughout, but we're buying them all gradually. Because we had like in the 40s of it. And at some point we had like maybe 7 and then 14 and then 20 and like just all over the place. So we're just buying them and reading them consecutively. So right now we have like the first 6. So I am reading the second one, The Hidden Staircase. But yeah, I'm kind of interested for the 4th one, which is The Mystery at Lilac, whatever, Inn. And I'm like, is this gonna be in Michigan? Cause there's Mackinac Island and they have a lot of lilacs. And yeah, so if it was there, it'd be cool. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to chat a little bit about this. So if you all have read this, let me know your thoughts, or if you didn't and you continue to watch anyways, your thoughts on this book that's like almost 100 years old, 90 years old. Probably the first draft is 100 years old. You never know when they started it, but I'm assuming probably somewhere in the 20s, and now we're in the 2020s. So anyways, it was an interesting read. Let me know your thoughts down below, and until my next video, blessed be.